Welcome to this video from the OCCC Library. I'm going to talk about finding credible and peer-reviewed psychology articles using the EBSCOhost databases. As you know, anytime you are doing research, your sources need to be credible. You should review different characteristics of the source. Look at the author or organization responsible for creating the source. Are they considered experts? Do they have the authority to speak on a topic with credibility? Review the source for bias. Did the authors omit information or maybe try to sell you something? Did they support their claims with evidence? Ensure the information is current so you know that it hasn't changed. And review the sources that the authors used. Do they provide the documentation or evidence they relied upon to complete their research? When looking for credible sources, peer-reviewed articles are generally considered to be the most credible type of information. The authors are experts and they use appropriate research methods to ensure the article is trustworthy. Finding peer-reviewed articles isn't as straightforward as a Google search. Google does have a scholarly database, Google Scholar, that may be helpful. However, Google Scholar doesn't define what is considered scholarly, and there is no way to limit your searches to peer-reviewed articles. Additionally, many Google Scholar results require a subscription to a paid database or an outright purchase of the article. Instead, you should rely on a library database such as EBSCOhost for your search. In this video, I'll focus on showing you how to locate credible sources that are both peer-reviewed and not peer-reviewed. To access EBSCOhost, visit the library's website, www.occc.edu/library. EBSCOhost is the library's primary source for articles. It is a collection of article databases that include magazines, journals, and periodicals. EBSCOhost can be accessed by clicking on the Articles tab, then EBSCOhost. After the EBSCOhost page opens, but before you start searching, you should select which databases you want to search by clicking on the searching link above the search boxes. Don't be tempted to select all. EBSCOhost has a variety of databases focused on a number of different disciplines, and you want to select databases that have psychology content. The first two listed, Master File Complete and Academic Search Complete, are broad general databases that cover lots of disciplines, including psychology, so select those. Then scroll down a bit and you'll see that two databases, APA Psych Articles and Psychology and Behavioral Sciences Collection, focus on psychology, so choose those as well, then go to the bottom and click Select. Credible scholarly articles tend to be very narrow in scope and will focus on a very specific topic. Your search terms need to account for that. You can start with a broad search using brief terms like motivation. However, in this case, with over 200,000 results, I'll want to consider how I can narrow that down. I can think about different demographic groups such as males, females, the elderly. You can look at related topics. If you are searching a topic that is a psychological diagnosis, such as bipolar disorder, you could add the words causes or treatments or diagnosis. For my search on motivation, I'm going to return to the advanced search box and add the word athletes. Note that I put the second search term in a separate box since it is a new concept. That brings us to a more manageable number. Now I'm going to go to the top and use the filters to narrow my results a bit more. To ensure that I'm getting scholarly articles, I will select the source type box and choose academic journals, then apply. This will include a wide range of scholarly articles that may range from general news in the field to advanced peer-reviewed research. Peer-reviewed articles are original research completed by scholars. Often they are experiments or studies with human subjects. The study and the articles are submitted by the authors to scholarly journals that have other scholars in the field review the research prior to publication, thus the description peer-reviewed. These reviewers will look for flaws or concerns about the research and have the authors address it prior to publication. Once concerns are addressed and the article is published, it will be considered the gold standard as far as credibility goes. If your professor specifies that you are to use peer-reviewed sources, select the peer-reviewed journal limiter at the top. Note that this limits results to items published in peer-reviewed journals. Occasionally, there are articles in peer-reviewed journals that are not peer-reviewed articles. For example, a letter to the editor, an opinion piece, or a book review. You'll want to review your articles to ensure they contain original research and the article is actually peer-reviewed. For many topics, you are probably hoping to get recent information. I can narrow the date range of my results. For this search, I'm going to limit to the last 10 years. I still have over 1,000 results, so I might consider narrowing this down again by returning to the advanced search and adding additional terms. If you are unsure how to proceed, you might start scanning the results to see if there is a narrower facet that interests you and add those keywords to your search terms. Let's take a look at the second result. This is an article titled Performance Trajectories for Competitive Swimmers. There's a bit of information here, but let's go ahead and click on this title to find out more. Right away, we see the author's names and in many articles, their affiliation. This helps judge the credibility. We note that these authors are affiliated with different universities, so that's good news. Next, under source, we have the name of the journal, Motivation Science. The date, the volume, and the page numbers are included. That's within the last year, so that helps us evaluate the currency. These are also pieces of information that you will need for your citation, which we will talk about later. Scroll down and you will see subject headings that provide us with a description of the article. Review these terms as they may give you some ideas on refining your search or other related topics you might like to research. You'll also see the abstract, which is a summary of the article. Read this before viewing the article. It will give you a brief overview of the research question, the methods, and the conclusions the author reached. If this looks like an article you want to read, take a look at the top for access options. For many articles, you will see links to the full text of the article. If the PDF option is available, choose that. Like most peer-reviewed articles, this one is long, 12 pages. As a college undergraduate, a peer-reviewed article is going to be challenging because it is written for an audience of scholars and researchers who are already familiar with this topic. However, your professors do not expect you to understand every concept in the article. Be strategic in how you read the article. You may not need to read every single word of the article. Most peer-reviewed articles begin with a discussion at the beginning of the article that explains what information they were interested in researching, as well as what other research has been done on the topic, often called a literature review. Next, you will see a section that explains how they did the research. That is typically called method or methodology. They may have done an experiment or perhaps a survey. They will explain the process here. As you scan through the article, you'll continue to see different types of information. Expect to see a results section, though it may be called something else, that goes over what the research revealed. Frequently, this area has lots of statistics that are difficult to understand, and that's okay. You're just trying to get a very general understanding of what they discovered. As you continue on, you'll probably find a discussion section on the article. This is where the authors explain what the results of their research mean for their original question. This article has a limitations section. This will help address concerns about bias. Most articles will also have a conclusion section. This will wrap up the entire article. Lastly, you'll note that this article, like all peer-reviewed articles, has a list of references. This is similar to the Works Cited page you create when you write a paper and provides documentation. As you become a more advanced researcher, you may want to review the references list to find additional sources on your topic. You'll see at the top options for saving and sharing this information in this article by clicking on the arrow icon. Choosing the quotation mark icon will help you create a citation for this article. You'll see that it provides citations for several different styles, such as MLA or Chicago. For psychology courses, you'll be using the American Psychological Association style, or APA. You can copy this citation. Be sure to double check it. Occasionally there are errors or formatting is lost. Now that we've gone through the entire process of locating and reviewing a peer-reviewed article, let's go back to our original search list. Use your browser's back button. You'll see the article that we were just looking at, and you can see that the links to the full text actually are also available on this page. In some cases, there is no full text available. If you see an article you're interested in, but it has a request this via interlibrary loan link, that means that the library will obtain a copy of the article for you from another library. Click the link, fill out the form, and we'll email you the article when we receive it, usually no more than a couple of business days. Occasionally, articles take longer, so have a backup plan if you're in a hurry. If you are in a hurry and need an article immediately, you can go to the top and narrow your search results to only those articles that are available with full text. If you have any further questions about using EBSCOhost or finding sources, visit the Contact a Librarian link under Getting Help on the library's website, or use the chat feature available in the bottom right corner of the library's homepage.